Hello everybody and welcome back to another Ostara Games video. So today we're doing the first ever devlog and I am incredibly excited for this. So as you can see, we're in Microsoft Word and I am currently lining up all of my templates. And of course this is in a time-lapsed version just because I don't think anyone would want to see me fiddling around with Microsoft for anywhere between 30 minutes to about 2 hours. So in regards to making, I'm brain farting on the word, I just said it 2 seconds ago. In regards to making templates for your cards, this is a very important step. When you decide to go and make any kind of game, whether it be a trading card game or even just a board game for that matter, being able to create something that you can just constantly fill in is going to save you a lot of time. And essentially, when you're making all these different things for a game, you create this resource bank that you continually draw from, and this is something that I have been doing a lot with Storm. This is something I'm going to be doing a lot with this next game. It's a matter of getting all of your resources together and just being able to continuously pull from them again and again and again. And it's tricky because many people often think, oh, well, it's the tricky part about the cards and about the game is, just designing the mechanics and making sure the artwork and such looks nice. And that is only part of it, my friend. There's so much other just nuances into fiddling around with things like the product design and getting all of that situated. It's tricky because people often think of the card as like, oh, this is the brilliant artwork from all these different artists that the team hired or whatnot. But one thing that often gets overlooked is essentially just the outside stuff of the card, which is like, what is essentially the frame that holds this picture together. And this is something that's, to some degree, kind of often overlooked. I feel like when it comes to cards, it's just like maybe just a box and then a picture and then effect. There's so much more that you can put inside of just a template. I've got other videos on the channel that cover some of these ideas and things that you can work with, so of course I encourage you to check some of those out. But right now, tuning back into what is actually happening within the time-lapse, this is me experimenting with different things that I want to add to my templates. So on my own, I've been working in some of my own sketchbooks and whatnot, trying to come up with different layouts and different feels and mechanics for how these cards are going to work. And on the left, I have an image for essentially things and like how it's going to be filled in and whatnot. And on the right, this is me just trying to like break down some of the cards a bit more. So currently I have 2-ish, potentially 3-ish real card ideas in mind. There are these beings known as the Ancients, and they're the ones that essentially determine how you build your deck. They give you the certain affinities for cards, and if none of this makes sense now, it's going to make sense later within the series. Just putting that out there. Secondly, you have the spell cards. Not to be confused, of course, with Yu-Gi-Oh! Spell cards, but it is essentially each card that you put into your deck represents some sort of magical ability or spell that you can cast and have some effect in game. And there's the third card, which I'm going to be showing later within this time-lapse, which is your Essence card. Each turn you get a certain amount of essence that you can use to cast spells. And what's really fun about this is instead of just continually having to like write things down, you use the card itself to determine how much essence that you have within the game. And you do this simply just by turning it, and each position of this card determines how much essence you have at that given moment. But anyways, so what I'm currently doing within the time lapse is I am trying to figure out how to put what I have seen in my mind onto, I was going to say paper, but of course this is Microsoft Word, so this is actually not paper. I'm trying to figure out how to go and get everything lined up with what I'm seeing in my mind. I'm trying to figure out, okay, this is what I put in my notebook, this is what I was sketching around with, how do I make it look like how I want to look on even just a Microsoft format. Of course, this is nowhere even close to what it's going to look like when it's done, but in this case, this is going to give me some general idea of, okay, I want I might want these cards to have this sort of gradient or be this color. And of course, when I actually go into Clip Studio Paint and make all of these cards, it's going to look incredibly different. There's going to be a lot of just other details that I'll be able to put in, and this is just essentially rough sketching in an odd sort of way. And another fun thing that I do is just a minor tip, which you might have seen me doing a bit within this video, is I will often create text boxes, copy and paste a grouped image of my template, and just slap it in to one of these boxes. It makes it just easy and nice to cut along as well, so you don't feel like you're trying to you're not snipping all the edges, trying to get a nice and even cut. It's just, you just go, you snip it a little bit, and then it's ready to go. But you also might be wondering, okay, well, as a small question, why is none of this filled in? And that is a very good question. So in regards to this current devlog, I have a lot of different abilities that I want to put to paper, as well as different ideas for ancients and art for the different ancients and the characters and the different spells. But one of the big problems is I have been on this road before. I have spent hours and hours and hours going and putting down all of these different abilities, different effects and attacks, only to change them dozens of times later. So you're actually seeing me do this for the first time myself, which is I'm going to be, just as a reference, I'm going to be going and putting just incredibly blank templates for myself, and over the course of my testing within the next few days or even weeks, I will be putting them in with pencil and paper, and then that way it's easier to edit. One of the tricky parts is when I go and I'll make a template and I'll put it into one of my finalized text boxes, is once it's in there, you can't really do much with it. But the reason why I do that is because it makes it more permanent. So if I'm fiddling around with other things within Microsoft Word, I'm like, oh, I need to come up with ideas for the ancients, or I need to come up with ideas for this or that or this, it makes it so that I don't need to go and change everything around if something gets slightly nudged out of place, because that can get very annoying very quickly. So instead of having to continuously mess around with different components and whatnots for the cards coming out of place, I'll often go and just stick them inside of a text box. But as I mentioned, that makes it very difficult to take what I've created and then edit it further. So in this case, I'm going to be doing one of my first major rounds of testing without any sort of typing, without any sort of text within the cards. And of course, I am putting text in the cards now. As you can see, you're like, oh, Ostara, what are you doing right now? You're putting all the text in. It's like, that is a reference for myself. I am trying to figure out how this is going to look, and it is giving me images to visualize, like, okay, this is what I can do next steps moving forward. Or even, it's useful to experiment within your templates to figure out how much room am I really working with. And I feel like with card and game design, there's this really funny meme. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh meme where there's someone holding up a magnifying glass saying, and the joke is trying to read the new Yu-Gi-Oh effects, because the font is ridiculous. It's so incredibly small. It's like that joke where it's like, oh, well, yeah, did you see this in the fine print? And it's like an incredibly small magnifying glass, and it's like an entire novel just written out. In my opinion, you don't want to have cards that are like that. You want to have cards that you can read what they're trying to say. And I understand that sometimes the effects in Yu-Gi-Oh can become very complex, but at the same time, I feel like there's a legibility that comes with making a game easy to play. But now, in regards to it, these are the three different types of cards that I've created. There's the Essence card, the aforementioned Essence card. Goodness, I can't talk today. There's the card of the Ancients, and then there are my spell cards. And of course, each one is going to have a different color scheme as well as a different design. Some of them, as you can tell, are much more simple than others. The Essence card was incredibly easy for me to make. It was literally just an arrow, which is to show the different positions, and I thought that would be a good way to keep track of that. In regards to the spell cards, those are the ones that are going to be having a lot of these different effects, and I need to figure out how much exactly will go into it. But anyways, that is really all the time that I have for this time lapse today. I really hope that you enjoyed. I hope that checking this out has given you some good ideas about what you can do with your own game, and I hope that you're excited to see other things that I come up with. This is just the first episode of this devlog, and I'm so excited to create more. So anyways, I will be seeing all of you next time.